Yo, 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 what's up, motherfuckers? Welcome to another episode of Lefty Live. Chilling, my bad, I was a little late. Just getting the kid down to sleep. But I got a couple guests tonight. I got Ben from Jack Wolf, and I got Corey Dunlap on tonight. What's up, guys?
What's up?
How's it going? What's going on?
Chilling. What's going on with you guys?
Winding down. Just came out of the shop, grinding some knives and ate a little bit, and
Nice.
getting ready to call it. This is it for the night for me. I'm finished working. How about you, Ben?
You guys are 2 or 3 now. Fucking mountain time.
What's your question? We're 2 hours behind you right now.
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all you fools fall back and we just stay in the same place.
Fuck.
You all right there, bud? Do you need some Heimlich?
I don't know, man. I'm just drinking a fucking Dr. Pepper. I don't know. I got a flu shot earlier. Maybe it's fucking me up.
Uh-oh. You're going to get sick.
Constricting my throat and shit. I got it because my brother, his wife, and their 2 kids. One's 3 and one's 1, I believe. Maybe he's almost 2. Shit. They're coming in from Holland, and every fucking time we see them, everybody gets sick. Like, it's crazy. When they moved over there in July, but whenever we saw them, like, we would come down with some shit. Like, kids would get hand, foot, mouth, like flus, like all types of shit. My parents were just over there, and everybody got COVID. It's like, so I was trying to prepare myself. So I got the flu shot tonight. But then my uncle's a doctor. He's like, yeah, it takes like 2 weeks to kick in anyway. So kind of useless. I was like, God damn it.
Dude, those international germs are no joke.
Yeah, you get some germs from overseas that we're not used to.
Yeah, that'll fuck you up. See who's here. What's up, guys? Blade Ogre, Jeffrey Dawson's in the house. Dr. Drew, got Mike Reese and Robert Douglas. Pretty Fly. I love that name. Pretty Fly for a knife guy. Scott Teague, Matthew Russell. Alice, what's up, Alice? How you doing tonight? Knife Nerds in the house. The Daily Knife number 2. Is there a Daily Knife number 1? Why'd you go with number 2?
Maybe he likes a number 2 instead of a number 1, don't we all?
Yeah, that's true. Nuts for 920. What up? What up?
Stupid question. Are the new comments coming in on the bottom or the top?
On the bottom.
Hey, man, it's not stupid. You're actually seeing them is better than most people who go, where do I see the comments?
I just switched. I was like, oh, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah. You said, yeah, it got canceled for no reason. You mean the Daily Knife number 1 got canceled, so you just created a new account with number 2? That's pretty
Very
sick.
Incognito. It's great to see all you guys.
Yep.
I hope you're all getting ready to slide into the low productivity period that most people experience at the end of the year.
That's true.
What's that?
Participating this year.
Although for a lot of people, it actually is the busiest time because you're trying to wrap up your books and shit for 20.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you do. Like certain office jobs, dude, it turns into a ghost town.
Yeah,
you know.
But if you're in accounting, you're working like crazy hours right now.
That's true.
I remember at the end of the year at the knife house, my previous employer, retail shop with chef supplies and Japanese cutlery, and it would be like inventory time, and there would be just a million products in that store, and counting every single one of them was brutal. A lot of the knives from Japan don't have labels on them. You got to take every box off the shelf, count for every. It was horrible. I hated this time of year when we would have to do that.
Yeah, inventory is the fucking worst job ever. Especially if you're somebody like me who like quadruple counts it because you're not sure. You just want to make sure you get it right, you know? Fucking hate that shit.
Yeah. Or
And then, like, do you?
Go ahead. Sorry, Corey.
No, I was gonna say, do you count the display? Do you not count the display?
Right.
Are you gonna sell the display if it has scratches on it or blems? It's like, what are we doing here, right? By the time you get through it, something's off. You're like, how did this happen? Or like for us, we would be open. So it's like, well, we just did the inventory. I'm like, well, it's not the same anymore because we were doing sales right after that.
Right.
It was crazy.
Matt, did you buy a custom nurse? I guess, or did you? Yeah, because there are production nurses. Or did you get that mini one? He's talking about the Gavco nurse. Probably the custom. He just came out with a Wii knife, the high fin. I got to check it out, which was pretty sweet. Yeah. What up, Troy? Got your since Ben's here and you're here, let me fish something out of my pocket. Got my orange, what is it? Butero leather from Italy. I'm bougie like that, apparently. This shit is sexy. And then you get the Mars Valley on the Venmo, Jack.
Dude, a lot of people have misread it that way. Tells you how much people really use Venmo. I got the Natty out.
Oh, listen to that pop, dude. That is fucking crazy. Sounds great. Yeah. So this bitch be dropping tomorrow. 2 p.m. Eastern time. The real time zone. 2 p.m. Eastern. 12 p.m. whatever you guys are. Is it? Are you in Mountain Time or what are you in?
All right, here's how it goes down. There's daylight time and standard time, right?
Yeah.
So I think technically we just stay in Mountain Standard Time.
So you don't have your own Arizona time.
No, we just don't have a daylight time.
You
So
should
basically,
just call it. You should just call it "Give No Fucks" time.
It is. It's stubborn bastard time, is what it is.
I need the whole country to go to that because no, that's not what I want. I want the whole country to go to daylight savings time all the time.
You want to spring forward and stay there?
Because right now, I wake up to go to work or work whatever. Sometimes I work at home most of the time, but it's fucking dark and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I get off of work at 5 and it's fucking dark. Like, fuck that. I want that hour of daylight at the end of the day.
Yep.
And there's no reason to be doing this shit anymore. Like, they did it because of like farming and shit. Because people wanted to have daylight in the morning when they got up. But who cares? Like, just get up earlier or later. Like, I don't understand why that even matters. I guess I could do the same thing, but I don't know.
There's been an effort in Congress to change it, but they can't tie their own goddamn shoes.
Well, I think Florida passed it, but nobody like lets them, follow it because it's like a federal thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, you got the barley?
Dude, I've been using it. I've been loving it. Yep.
Sick, dude. Yeah.
What knife is that?
Love that design.
Tell them about it, Kev.
That's the barley. So that's a urban EDC knife, but it's our design. So I have a knife company, Divo Knives, and we designed that. And then Urban EDC picked it up. So it's technically their knife, but it's our design. And should be coming out for pre-order early next year. Can't wait for that. Wish I had all the monies to just get everything into production at once, like this pimp over here. But
gotta put everything you have up as collateral and
yeah, right.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
I'm working on it. So my soul is dark. So Corey, for the people who don't know you, what are you doing?
So I'm a professional knife sharpener and knife maker. Newer to professional knife making than knife sharpening. So
Okay.
I've been sharpening professionally for about 12 years. I used to be, I used to work as a chef or a cook before that, and that's kind of how I got into sharpening knives. And then over time, just wanting to learn more about knives and understand sharpening better or repairs, be able to regrind knives, resurface them, refinish them. I started working with Master Bladesmith up in Camp Verde, Arizona. His name's Ray Rybar. And once I started forging knives, my intent was never really to get into forging. I don't think I had this idea in my head that I was gonna forge like carving forks and fancy cool spoons. I don't know. I just have a thing for utensils, like kitchen utensils, spoons, spatulas, and kind of taking that stuff back to handmade. And then I started forging, and it wasn't obviously, it was like, oh, well, you're gonna forge a knife, right? And I was like, well, I guess. So then once I made a knife, I was like, oh, this is it. It's over. But I like forging more than anything. Working on the grinders and belt sanders and hand sanding and all that, to me, is kind of just part of it. I mean, I don't hate it, but the forging part of it, just heating up metal and smashing it, that's the most rewarding part. So I split time. It's kind of weird. It's like I have two different businesses. I operate this sharpening service 5-6 hours a day in an office that Ben and I share office space, 2 offices in the same unit, or 2 units in the same general space. And then I work evenings, afternoons and evenings. I sharpen Monday through Thursdays, and I keep Fridays and Saturdays for just full days in my forge. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I went out on my own after doing retail and running a sharpening service for a company here in town. For almost 12 years, I was with them, and I sold Japanese imported kitchen knives. So now I'm 10 months into my own project, and still just kind of figuring everything out. It's stressful and fun. And
how's it going business wise?
Yeah, it's good. No complaints. If I could just get a little more organized in my head and with my processes. But I jumped between 2 locations, so you're constantly changing gears. Sharpening is so second nature to me. I've done it for so long. It's like, throw me a knife and I can do it blindfolded. I don't have to think about it. Knife making, I have to think about a lot more. I've been making knives for about 6 years now, but when you're making knives and you're not really trying to make money, you're just trying to kind of feed the hobby with what you do. It doesn't matter if you finish a knife in 6 months. And now, I have numbers to meet. So how do I keep making these nice knives that, I'm obsessing over details? How do I do that in a timely manner? So it's good. The process keeps getting a little more streamlined for me. I just picked up a new surface grinder attachment for my 2x72, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, I've got a new heat treat oven coming that I'm excited about. So just kind of keep adding equipment and moving forward. So I can't really complain about business. Christmas time's good. I'm kind of like the guy that, I didn't want to tell a bunch of people I'd have knives ready for them for Christmas, just because you just never know how life's going to hit you. So
yep.
I took a few orders, and then the month of December hits, and I'm like, okay, I can definitely fulfill the orders I took. And then it's just like, now that we're getting closer, I realize how much time I still have before Christmas Eve, and local people, I'm like, you want one? I'll get it done. So I'm just kind of cranking right now. I keep accepting Christmas orders, but I pretty much am cut off at this point. But it's been good. It's been fun.
Blades?
All fixed blades. I do locally. I make a lot of kitchen knives. So that's kind of how everybody knows me in Phoenix.
I mean, that makes sense.
Through
the chef, right?
Yeah, through the culinary industry, and then I sharpen knives for all the people that I kind of knew of or worked with across the valley. And so a lot of people that I sharpened for over the last 10, 12 years you go out on your own, you say you're making knives, and the first thing they think is a chef's knife or some sort of kitchen knife. The stuff I really like to make, I really like making small EDC blades and Bowie knives. Bowie knives are obviously my favorite. If I could just do that, I would. Unfortunately, they're not the most practical knives. They're definitely showy, and no, I don't know anybody that uses a Bowie knife that owns one. So they're fun to make, and you can really get creative with all the fittings and
like a Rambo Bowie knife.
Yeah, a little more Old West than that. Not quite that survival style.
Gotcha.
I like Western stuff, so kind of like all the American Bladesmith Society stuff with good old boy knives with fancy guards and collars and spacers and pin work.
Stuff you pick up at the Indian reservation tables when you're at the Grand Canyon or whatever.
It's just a rabbit hole you haven't been down yet, bro. But one day
Yeah.
you're down that hole. And
if you asked me a year ago or whatever about slip joints, I laughed it off, I'm sure. So
it's just natural progression.
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna naturally progress to Bowie fixed blades.
You just haven't had enough of them in your hands is the problem.
I don't like, so I think, all right, well, you were saying you don't know people who use them. I was going to say, I don't think I never would need one. So it's like, why would I? But I guess it's more of a collector thing too.
It's just the same thing with people with swords, right?
Like, they don't catch my eye that way, I guess. But
yeah,
certain, like sheep's foot blades, I'm a freaking sucker for a sheep's foot. And there's a lot of people who think sheep's feet, I don't know, are ugly as shit, So it just comes down to it. Crispy Critter's wondering what your favorite knife is.
Me personally?
Yep.
My favorite knife. Are we talking folding knives, kitchen knives, or just in general, very favorite
knife? If you want to make categories, you can make categories, but favorite knife. I know it's impossible. You couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't say.
I could answer that. There, I'll answer it.
I had one of those in for sharpening not too long ago. It was nice.
Yeah,
I thought it was nice. Yeah, I got to say I like folders, but I'm not much of a fidgeter, and I'm not huge into the flippers.
Right,
I guess I'm just kind of just kidding. Boring and old fashioned. My favorite knives. I don't even want to say it. My favorite folding knife, because I'm vanilla and I don't even own it. But like, if I was just going to pick one locking folding knife, I like the Chris Reeves Sabenza a lot. I mean, it's kind of like, how do you go wrong with that knife?
I think a lot of people would say the same thing, if you asked them 20 years ago.
I've got a really cool slip joint that Ben gave me that was it's a custom made by Jim Dunlap. It's a clip point. Is that kind of like a Lanny's clip blade? It's a little bit narrower than
it's more like relation.
It's a trapper. It's a trapper.
No relation.
I like that a lot.
No relation. All right.
Yeah, no relation at all.
Same spelling.
What up, Casey? Darnell? Robert? What's going on? Josh?
And there's a bladesmith out there named Lynn Ray who forges just everything is like crazy forged to shape. And I like his knives a lot. And he's starting to forge titanium and make all his fittings on his buoys out of forging titanium. And there's another guy, Nick Rossi. So I wouldn't say I have favorite knives as much as I have knife makers that I really like what they do stylistically and just can appreciate the skill that it takes.
Yeah. Ben loves CRK too.
I like them. I like the
you sent me your Undums on. That thing is so bad, dude. I don't know how you even open it.
It's my least favorite one out of the group. I'm like Corey, I don't fidget with my locking knives. I fidget with my slip joints all day, 100%. I think that's probably one of the many reasons I prefer them. I really like the precision manufacturing of the Chris Reeve knives. Like, even if you don't know what you're looking at, you can just tell it's well made.
Yeah, but they make them too tight for me. You know what I mean?
And I understand that, but like, I don't care if it doesn't drop shut. I almost like
but it's not even that. It's like I don't know. People call it hydraulic, whatever. I call it tight as fuck, but smooth. You know what I mean? Like for example, Ray Laconico makes folders that are on washers. They don't really drop shut. You might get it drop to your nail or something, but you're not like dropping it and it's just swinging down. Like, it's on washers, but it's still like fires out. It's super smooth and it doesn't feel like you're dragging the knife. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're powering the action on a Chris Reeve. I don't think that's like, I prefer to flick it and it pops open.
Sure. I mean, it's just simply a matter of preference. It's not as if
of course
one is good and one is bad, or one is high quality, one's low. I don't like flicking my knives open. I'm like the weirdo that slow rolls them typically, unless it has a top flipper on it. That's the only way to get it open.
I like the slow roll sometimes. I used to hate it, but I've gotten into it. I've been slow rolling this one. I carry this one today.
There you go.
Got the custom Delica from Lynch.
The other thing I think that Chris Reeve gets right is aesthetics. Like the Sebenza's aesthetics for a knife that is now 30 years old or more still looks good.
Yeah,
it's sleek. It's the blade shape is it's very nice on
the point. And the handle shape on the 21 I really like. But of course, these are personal preferences. Thank you, Casey. You are correct.
I slow roll nothing. Yeah, I've gotten, depending on the knife, like, a backlock, I'll slow roll out if I need to. It's kind of fun to change up pace a little bit every once in a while,
That's where I was trying to, the video I made on my reels about why it doesn't have a pocket clip on the slip joint, how it's okay to slow your roll, trying to get that message out to people. Like when they say, why doesn't it have a pocket clip on it? Instead of just saying they never had them, so therefore it doesn't, like, here's the benefits of not having one. And I think that's worthy of consideration.
Well, here's a reason, because you get a dead sexy slip from Troy over at Northwoods Leatherworks. That's why it doesn't have a clip. And it also just disappears in your pocket, once you drop it in. And then it frees up your pocket to clip another knife in my case. But yeah,
that's so funny. I totally carry two knives. I keep one of Benny's. I have a laid back jack and I have a Benny's clip. So I'll carry one of those, and then I always have my PM2 on me.
There you go.
But it's it's not because I was like, oh, I love PM2s. I love Spyderco. I just happened to be at a show and I was like, I need a new pocket knife. And they had some factory seconds and they had the Maximate steel. And I was like, how can you beat this? I got to try it. But two knives all the time is kind of weird. And if I put on a fixed blade to go with it, I just wouldn't feel right. So I can only have two at a time. That's sweet.
You can also put a knife in a clip slip. I feel like people just don't understand this concept. So just so you guys know, they make this thing. It's called a slip for your knife. You put your knife in. And then what they do is they attach a clip to that instead of your knife. And then you could take your knife without a clip, put it in there, and guess what? Now you can put it in your pocket with a clip. And it's easy to just fish right out. And you got your knife, pop back in, you're good to go. I feel like a lot of people overlook the clip slip. I don't know. I think they're just using the no clip as an excuse, though, so that they don't have to buy it or whatever, instead of just saying they don't want it or what. I don't know. But I use these all of the time, and they're fantastic.
People are always looking for reasons to disqualify something, and I think that's natural. Like, if we couldn't disqualify things, we'd buy fucking everything. You know what I mean? But it's also
I do that 100%.
Right. But it's also perhaps not it's like the low hanging fruit on why to disqualify it, because it's an easy choice to pick at, but it's like, but there's a counter argument and there's solutions. So if you're open minded, you can consider these things.
Right. He said one non-scary knife for the public and one for me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, one murder weapon, one letter opener.
This is the traditional PocketKnives.com Hedgehog exclusive from QSP, and this is really good. I gotta say, they did a great job on these. They did a full hollow on this. I don't recall the one that I handled being a full hollow. I think it was a little bit thicker flat grind, but it was a prototype. But tie scale is really thin. These, I think they dropped like a couple hours ago on traditional PocketKnives.com. So if you want to pick one of these bad boys up, and then tomorrow you can stay up on that site and pick up a Jack Wolf Venom Jack. You can put your little slip joint collection together. But yeah, this one's really good. I'm impressed with it. Probably my favorite non-Jack Wolf that I've handled.
I called Austin just to let him know that he killed it with that one, dude. And the jigging is really the standout sort of aesthetic feature. Like
so
he
good, dude.
Nailed it.
This, for me personally, I prefer this one over the Ohio River Jack, which I liked, but it was a little thick kind of and tall for me. I think all of that added a little bit of weight, even though it's fantastic. I'm not saying it's not good.
Yeah, but it wasn't contoured.
This gets rid of a lot of that, Yeah, contoured. It's 0.4 thin, I think I measured, and it's very light. And then you get that full hollow, and you get the M390. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for. I personally would have loved to have seen them do this belt satin on the blade. If they had done that, it would be like over the top fucking money.
What's the finish on there?
It's a machine. It's like a CNC satin. So it's just basically ugly ass lines. It's the best way for me to put it. That's where, so somebody's gonna ask this in their head or in the comments or whatever. They're gonna say, why is this one 145 and why is this one 300, right? And that's part of the reason. You're gonna get that hand belt hollow grind and satin on there, so you get those really nice grind lines. I don't know why it's getting like darker in here for some reason. Whenever I hold something up, it does the opposite of what I want. And obviously you get the fat carbon on here, or camo carbon. And then you're going to get the hand fitting of the spring, and basically all the parts are going to be hand kind of fitted down and sanded down or whatever. You can talk to that better than I can, Ben, but
hafted. The word is hafted. There's like
hafted?
one word to describe the whole process. HAFTED. Hafted. So like in slip joint manufacturing, the hafting process is when you assemble the handle and grind the spine to get it all flat and flush. The other thing too is, presumably those are machine ground bevels on the Hedgehog. Right. Not positive. I haven't seen one, so I'm speculating. And then there's also like Austin's the dealer, so there's one less person in the economic formula for that knife.
He's
so
got, that's where it's really a sweet spot for these dealers that are now making, like having knives, like Urban EDC, traditional pocket knives. Some other guys are doing it. Rec, I think, River's Edge Cutlery's doing it. A lot of them actually are doing it now.
Right.
But like they're doing their own models. So they're not just exclusives. They're their own knives. And what that means is you cut out literally 40% of the margin, basically.
Yep. Cut out an entire party in the deal. So it's a huge win for the consumer, and it's a competitive advantage for those dealers.
Right. So like at Divo, we have a knife made. We have to pay the OEM whatever it costs. So let's say we made the Hedgehog, right? We pay QSP whatever they charge for this. then we got to make money off it, right? So then we got to charge the dealer who's selling it. They want 30% or whatever, and you want to make your 40% or whatever the number is. And all of that is how you get to a higher number, where if you cut that whole section out, you know, and that's how you can get this for 145. So,
yep.
I highly recommend it, is what I'm saying. So pick one of these bad boys up if you would like. And since it's such a good deal, you know, you got some money left over, you pick up the Venom. I'll sell it for you, Ben.
I would say they're very different. So
of course they're very different.
Maybe presumably one will appeal to the customer more than the other, just because it's like you like blondes or brunettes. It's like they both look good. Just pick your poison.
But beyond that,
when you have enough money, get the other one.
Beyond that, there's always so whenever I get another slip joint, the way my mind works at this point is I immediately am trying to compare it and match it up to your knives, right? Yours is like the gold standard at this point. So that in itself says something. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, if I'm considered the benchmark, there's nothing more I could ever ask for.
And I have not found anything that rivals it as of yet. Now, there's some stuff that's I think the barley, they did a really good job on. I still don't think it's here. This is fantastic. I still don't think it's here. You do all those little detail things. It's kind of like if you take I don't know what kind of example, Sharp by Design, right? There's just a level of something design wise that you're not getting in other knives, right? Just refinement, I guess, is the word, right? And I think you're doing that with slip joints, and that's kind of why they are as good as they are. But anyway, talking about the Venom, this thing's a beast, dude. I've had one for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks now. And it's got the perfect handle shape, I think, at least for my hand. Just melts into the hand. And the blade it's a monster, dude. I cut some paper. I don't know if the review's out yet, but I cut paper. And I've done the test before. The best I've ever gotten was the Jaeger from Brian Brown, which has a really deep, thin hollow grind and a nice warning so you can get some power behind it. And I cut I just stacked paper and cut through to see how deep it goes, because I used to cut a lot of shipping labels, so I'd have to cut a ton of them at once, and that was kind of a way of gauging. And I got through, I think, 7 with this thing, and that was the most I've ever done. And I'm not leaning on it. I'm just doing, I'm putting a little pressure down and cutting. I'm not trying to break the tip, but I did it with the Venom, and I think I got through 9 sheets. So this thing's sharp as fuck, thin as fuck too.
I was holding one the other day, and I don't even know why, but I had my thumb on the tip, and it just sunk into my fucking thumb. All of a sudden,
100%. I think 100%.
It's hard. I don't know what a more wicked blade is, as far as not aesthetics, but just for cutting shit. You're not gonna skin something with it, but dude, just for cutting stuff, this is probably the best one in the collection as the pure cutter.
Yeah, and you get a little more power behind it than you do in, say, the laid back jack, because you got the swell up on that one, and it's a little smaller.
Correct.
At least for me.
I'd say that's a little more gentlemanly knife, where this one is I don't know, sounds kind of morose, but I feel like you could just slash someone's throat with this thing and get all the way back to the spine with this bad boy without putting a whole lot of effort into it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just leave that one there.
We're calling it the OJ.
The OJ. Yeah, G-Ball. I like the ORJ. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. This is definitely better. It's lighter as for me is a big category is weight. This is lighter, thinner, a little bit shorter, contoured. Dude, it's fucking fire. And then it's got the jig tie, and it's like the same price, maybe a little less. So, and it's got the full hollow, which is sick. Trust me. I measured this one around, I think 13 or something like that behind the edge. By the way, go check out G-Ball Vision on YouTube, guys. Let me just make sure.
With this one,
yeah, what up, Bridgeport? What's going on, man? How you doing, Garrett?
If anybody in the audience buys one of these things, get a few of your knives out and just take your fingers and like pinch along the cutting edge. And what you'll notice is how thin this thing stays pretty much up until where my index finger is. Like this thing is hollow way, way, way up here. Yeah. That's what really impressed me when I first felt this grind. And I think that's why on your paper test, you were able to get so deep because you didn't meet the wedge until much farther up the blade.
Sick, Troy. Yeah. And if any of you guys are like after a specific, I'm going to skip ahead, guys. So sorry. If you had a question, just hit me again with them. We got a troll in here. I don't know. I don't see it. So I'm just going to keep going.
Someone said I'm turning people into Pez dispensers.
But if anybody here wants one and you're like worried you're not going to get a certain one, there's dealers that they're doing basically pre-orders for them. I think Blade Capone does them, OCD for EDC. I mean, he actively advertises it on his live. So
hold on a second. Officially, there are no pre-orders. But what I will say officially is there's dealers who want to take care of customers on a personal level. And so that's between you guys. But officially, there are no pre-orders. We have a drop.
Hold on a second. All right, so guys, you can go over to some dealers and hit them up and be like, yo, I want one, and they'll hook you up, and then you'll get it. Not all of them, but some of them. You go talk to them, all right? They're not pre-orders, but they're pre-orders. All right, hey, Ben, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, guys, I'm back.
Welcome to the show. No, I know what you mean.
Ben doesn't have any dishes to wash, by the way. I just saw that comment.
I use paper plates, yo.
Yeah, well.
That's funny.
We don't use dishes on the giant office ham.
Oh, we got booted.
Exactly.
Okay.
We just let Corey cut it because when I do, it looks like Stevie Wonder cut it.
You took Ben out? Hey, dude. I got full control over here, bro. I'll do anything for a laugh. Come on, you guys know that. You know that. Ben, if you make me a hawk bill, I will wash your dishes for a month. Pinky swear.
What I will say is hawk bill is like
on the
top 3 of what I'm interested in designing right now.
Same
it's
for
right
me.
out there.
I actually have it like near the top of my list to do a hawk bill and then call it the hangover. That's my plan. I got a name and I got a plan, but I don't have a knife yet.
Those are like the least useful knife ever.
What? What? It's the most useful knife.
No, it's not.
All right.
No, it's not. They're terrible. They're terrible to sharpen.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're a sharpener, so you're the guy who hates recurves, probably, right?
But it's not let's be honest, it's not really a recurve. It's way beyond a recurve.
Yeah, but it gets zip ties and cuts into packaging and it does all the EDC stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just those flat edge, Warncliffe blades and the sheep, like the fine point flat edge will do that. You don't need a complete.
They also look cool. You know what I mean?
Half circle recurve.
They also look cool. All right, here's a question.
Look cool.
Here's a question. And I meant to do this as a short, but I forgot. Is it hawkbill or hawksbill? I see it both ways everywhere, and I'm curious because look in the comments. Hawkbill Fixie would be cool. I love hawksbills.
I'd go hawkbill.
I always say hawks. I think I say hawksbill. No, I don't.
I think you're both right.
but I see it both ways. So I'm just curious.
Someone said do a stiletto jack. Well, the vampire jack's pretty damn close.
Corey trying to bring some reality to the night.
So, Corey, how would you sharpen a hawkbill if people in the audience are interested in them?
Break the tip off and just straighten it out.
I would take it and throw it out into the street. No. For me, you either need to have a radius, like a radius, like a slipstone or a round ceramic rod, some round stone if you want to do it by hand. Right. You have to be able to kind of follow that curve. But the easiest way to do it is just a slack belt, a really soft back, like a J Flex sanding belt, and they curl when you tighten them on your belt sander, and they curl and get that radius, and then you can just follow the curve. And that's how I've sharpened those in the past. The hardest thing about those is the tip, though, because you don't want the tip to come up at the end. You want it to stay coming down and not straighten out. It's really difficult. It's just awkward and weird. But belt sander all the way, 320, 400 grit belt, J Flex, get it real nice and curled. Or even sometimes you can cut a belt or use like a 1-inch belt on a 2x72 where you can get up on the top slack and go after it that way.
Is hawks bills the plural? Do you add the S in there if it's plural? Could that be what so it's hawk bill and hawks bills?
You really hung up on the grammar.
The Talon Jack. I like it. I like the Talon Jack.
I would do something a little less on the nose, you know.
I was trying to think of like a reference to a movie that had something to do with a talon. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, like a bird in it. I don't particularly like birds very much. They kind of freak me out. Like birds? Geese and shit. I don't trust them.
That's any wildlife, man. It's not just birds. It's anything that's alive that's not a human being and exists in the outdoors.
I don't have like
that'd be good too.
Raptor Jack.
Cool. So like Jurassic Jack or something like that.
Toucan Jack. That's my favorite.
Jack. The Velocir Jack. There's got to be a Jurassic Park reference you could rock on that one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like the Napoleon Dynamite. He's got it. Whoever said that. That's
Spielberg.
That's the one.
Spielberg Jack.
I got my American cream pie.
Nice. I'm up to 3 of those. They're all out actually being sharpened right now.
I told Kevin after he told me that he needs to see my friend Corey here for sharpening.
Next time.
So Corey, you do provide a mail-in sharpening service. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I try to make it pretty easy. So my website's CoreyDunlap.com, and on the website there's a button for mail-in sharpening. And it basically only shows 3 products to pick from, but kitchen knife under 6 inches, kitchen knife over 6 inches, and then fixed and folding blades. And you select how many knives you're going to send in and the correlating knife to what you're actually sending. And then at checkout, you'll select a return shipping option. And upon checkout, you will be paying for your return shipping label also. So it's pretty simple. You just have to get your knives packaged safely, ship them off to me. I always tell people if there's something you're not sure about and you don't see an option for it in the mail order section on my website, then just shoot me an email or call me or grab me in Messenger on Instagram, and I can tell you how to go about it. But you don't even have to do it that way. That's if you want to prepay for your return shipping label. As long as you contact me ahead of time and say, hey, I want to send this stuff to you and I know what to look out for, you can just box it up and ship it my way.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Corey Dunlap _ COREY. Last name Dunlap DUNLAP and _.
And
I'm on there. I'm sorry.
What's your turnaround time?
Turnaround time is pretty quick. So I usually get the knives in, and as long as I get them earlier in the day, I try to get them turned around, sharpened the same day I receive them, and shipped back out the next day.
Damn.
Even if they come in at the end of my day, then they would be first thing on the docket in the morning. So they'll be with me for about 24 hours. It's just going to take your 2-day shipping. USPS priority. That's what's going to take you the longest. But
that's nice.
And what do you charge for what are your prices for those categories on your website?
So I charge $15 flat rate for most fixed blades and folding knives, and mostly because in the folding knives, you guys have to have those crazy high vanadium super steels. You can't just have the normal low alloy, high carbon steels that are nice and pleasurable to sharpen. But so I charge $15 for those. It's all hand sharpening on water stones. I use a variety of ceramic and diamond resin stones for those. And then kitchen knives under 6 inches are $10. Over 6 inches are $15. If there's any repairs or refinishing work or refurbishing work that needs to be done, that stuff would all just be quoted individually once I get the knife. If I saw something that needed extra attention, I try to just lump in minor repairs and clean up as just part of the rate that I charge for sharpening. I think that, while sharpening can be time consuming, and I feel like sometimes I kind of get into these situations where I'm not really probably making, I'm spending a little more time than I would like to for what I charge, but I like my sharpening to be accessible and repeatable, because if we use your knives on a regular basis and you're not really doing any honing for yourself or maintenance on your own, I don't care what knife it is, they're going to be dull in a relatively short period of time if you're using it frequently and you don't do anything for maintenance. So I try to make my pricing so that it's accessible, and you could do it, if you needed to do it every 3 months or every other month, or I have chef's knife guys, I have clients that are in once a month, with all their stuff. And that's always nice because I'm the only person touching it. So it's real easy for me to maintain. I'm not fixing sharpening angles. I'm putting down the same sharpening that I did the time before. So it's nice. But I try to make quick turnaround time and be reasonably priced. And if you want crazy high polish, you want to go up to 10, 12,000, 1 micron, whatever you want to do. I mean, I can do that stuff. I might try to practically talk you into a different direction, but I generally finish the folding knives at like a 10 micron, which is if you really tried to rate it, it's somewhere between like 1,800 and 2,000 grit. But the stones that I use provide a much higher polish, so you get a nicer finish to the knife and a more uniform scratch pattern. But because they're diamonds, the toothiness of your edge is much more severe, even in a very fine finished edge. So those are really nice, and that's what I like to do on a lot of the folding knives, except for there's some alloys out there that maybe I would go a little bit lower and then kind of focus on a leather strop or something. But yeah, I try to be a quick turnaround time for everybody and make the pricing reasonable so that it's repeatable.
So why separate kitchen knife and folding / fixed blade in that like pricing thing?
Because you mean why is it the same price, but why do I have it separated?
Yeah, like what's the challenge? Like, what are the different challenges between the two? Like, why it sounds like in your head they're different. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're very different.
I'm just wondering what it is about them that makes it that way.
Yeah, kitchen knives, in my opinion, from my personal and professional experience of being around a ton of Japanese kitchen knives and just kitchen knives in general, they're made with relatively simple steel alloys in most cases. So the sharpenability is very, very easy. Even your knives that are at 64, 65 Rockwell in a kitchen knife, the alloy is going to respond better. It's not going to be quite as wear resistant as your high vanadium alloys that are in the folding knives. So that's the first and foremost thing. You have people that make kitchen knives understand that these tools need to be honed all the time, every day. I mean, when I was cooking, I was on a polishing stone every single day with whatever knives I was using. Right. The goal is just keep your knives 90% sharp for as long as you can, right? Folding knives are made the opposite, where it's like, let's get a steel that's extremely corrosion and wear resistant, and this person probably is not going to do their own sharpening, or we don't want them to have to sharpen it as frequently. So they're not quite as easy to sharpen. They require a more specific type of stone. Either a CBN abrasive or a diamond abrasive is going to work best on high vanadium alloys like that. And then you have the geometry. Kitchen knives, generally speaking, are going to be like the knives that I finish are like the ones I make are as thin, if not thinner, than those Jack Wolf knives at the cutting edge. Like you can flex with your just pressing the thumb on the kitchen knife's edge. You can actually flex the steel, and you can see it flex and then come back to straight after you press on it. So that thicker behind the edge geometry on those tougher, more wear resistant steels can really be a pain in the butt. And then on top of that, short knives, in my opinion, are harder to sharpen than longer knives. There's not as much wiggle room. You need to be more precise.
What's up, Roman?
It's kind of there's just kind of two different things. So that's why I categorize them differently. And I think the end user that's getting the sharpening service that has those two different types of knives are two very different consumers and types of clients. Where, in a kitchen, you're grabbing your knife and you're using it, and really most of what you care about is how it cuts the food. For me, on like my folding knives, sure, I use them, but I also sit around and do what you're doing right now when I'm on the computer and I look at my knives. And I think people do that. They inspect their edges. We're cutting more fine things a lot of times with those folding knives. So I think a lot of the collectors are really into those really high polished edges. They're probably a little more refined than a working edge needs to be.
I think they're just bored and we want nicer. You just always want better. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I come from both sides of it. So I totally get it. But I think it requires a different finish and a different level of kind of like inspection. When I finish a folding knife, I spend a lot more time considering or really looking at my edges on folding knives than I do on kitchen knives. And at this point, I don't know how much I really even need to super inspect what I do on my edge. I have a few tests that I use for sharpness, and if it passes all three, then I'm good. Now with the folding knives, I'm more sensitive to it. If you say I want to make sure all your scratch patterns are going in the same direction, and you don't have any washy bevels where you can see different facets or convexing from my hands moving when I'm sharpening. So it's a different thing, and it's a different client and consumer. And I've just been around enough knife people on all sides of it to know who looks at what and who's expecting what. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else. And you have to clean the folding knives and lubricate them. Make sure you don't have any grit. I won't take them apart, but I'll always make sure that I use like a duster, air can, blow out any lint or anything that's in your pivot, and then put some Gunny Glide on there.
Is that what you use, Gunny Glide?
I like Gunny Glide, yeah, a lot.
I feel like
he makes the automatic lubricant as well,
and he makes a thicker one too. The Slide, I think it's called.
Yep.
I need to try that stuff. But I love KPL. I've just always loved their product, so it's easy, Plus, now I have like an affiliate link and whatnot with them. But Like I always loved the products. That's why, I started doing that. Do you test your edges on paper towel rolls? Like how do you test your sharpness after sharpening?
So I like to use, I do kind of the Murray Carter 3-finger test out of habit. I've always done that, which is like you're gripping the edge and just seeing how fast it's grabbing into your skin, right?
Yeah.
Because your fingers shouldn't want to slide along the edge. So that's kind of what you're looking for with like the 3-finger test. Is like how fast, when I start to apply pressure and slide my fingers down this edge, how fast does it start to grab and want to cut? We don't want to cut ourselves, but it should start to grab your skin.
But like you can feel it slicing through the first part of your like.
So we do that. I like to do that. I like to use my thumbnail or a fingernail a lot because I want to check. I want it to be clean, but I want it to also be grippy. So I like edges that feel like they have teeth, but don't feel like they have teeth when you run your finger down the edge. You shouldn't be feeling a burr anywhere. So it should be a completely clean edge. But if you go and stick that edge into your thumbnail, it's going to grab it and not want to slide up and down. It's just going to stick. So if you check a few points along your edge and it sticks, then I know I have the bite I'm looking for. So now those are two things that really maybe your finger test on the edge will tell you if you have any burrs. I do like using the blue shop towels and just seeing if I can slice it and watching the fibers tear, right? Because it's a really soft material that if your edge is not really clean, it's not going to slice through. And if it's not toothy, it's not going to grab it. It's just going to want to slide on top of the towel. The fibers are tough enough to resist that edge. So I like to do that. The paper test is like the last and least important one for me, but it'll show you if you have any burrs on your knife. Again, you can slice through the paper and you can kind of hear for snagging. You can feel for snagging. You'll see these guys now doing the 6 where they're curling it around, and that's anything just like an S. If you can multi-directionally slice through that piece of paper, it's telling you there's no burrs, because if you had a wire edge or a burr sticking off your knife and you went to, it'll cut one way, it'll cut the way the burr is, but as soon as you try to go the opposite way, it's going to snag and catch up for you. So I'll usually do all of those things, and if it doesn't meet the mark in any of those, then I'll check my edge and I'll address it. But if you can do all those things, you're going to be able to do pretty much anything. And that's not just on a mirror finish knife. That, even if you're going to finish your knives, if you have harder work oriented knives, then you can finish at 600 grit if you want. As long as you get the burr off, you should still be able to pass most of those tests. I think Scott Gunn, I think he might have some YouTube videos of him like whittling hair off like 600 or 400 grit or 600 grit or something stupid like that. So as long as your geometry is right and you have a nice flat or crisp apex.
So, who else does all those tests and then feels like they need to strop their knife? Thank you, dude. Much appreciated, bro. Kev, let me test out a pony stout. I'll give it back. I swear. I got 3 of them right here. Pony stout just went into production the other day. So this one's going to be a White Mountain Knives exclusive as well. Should be out in like April. So that one's coming. Thank you, dude, by the way.
Corey, what are like some of when knives come in and you can see a poor sharpening job? What are the signs of a poor sharpening job?
Scratches on the blade.
Yeah, generally speaking, you don't want to see scratches behind your bevel on the primary bevels of your knives. I will say from a collector standpoint, if I gave somebody a folding knife that had a nice finish on it, and you did that, then I that would be pretty upsetting. But even if that was the case, because there's some kitchen knife sharpeners out there that you give them your knives and they lay them really low on stones. You get a bunch of scratches behind the edge, but they get the geometry right and the knives cut nicely. And some sharpeners just aren't all that worried about that. But I notice a lot of inconsistent bevels. So small bevel at the heel, large bevel at the tip of the knife, where it gets real wide, like the shoulder of the bevel is higher up on the blade in different sections. You'll get frowns. I see a lot of birds beaking, where if you lose the current. I sharpen a lot of kitchen knives, and a lot of those guys are doing some sort of sharpening or honing on their own, or trying to. And the most common mistake I see there is they don't follow the profile and the curve towards the tip. There's a technique to lift to be able to follow, because the knife rocks, whether it's at 90 degrees or 15 degrees, the knife has a curve to it. It wants to rock. And a lot of people have a hard time rocking towards the tip to follow the sweep. And you end up getting like a beak at the front, or you get a very flat cutting edge, and then all of a sudden your tip goes down like that. So I see that a lot. But inconsistent bevels, changing the profile of a knife, I see that. And knives can be tricky. You know, they're not just tapered from the spine down to the edge. A lot of times they're tapered from the heel or the choil area out towards the tip, right? And then you have compound grinds on some of these crazy folding knives, and all that stuff can be really challenging. And I see a lot of inconsistent, where you see different facets. If your angle's 15 degrees, then you want to stay on that plane the whole time and keep that bevel nice and clean. Where people will wobble, or they just can't hold the knife flat on that freehand sharpening. But a lot of people, I actually, the more that I see people doing their own sharpening and buying the guided angle systems, I like those concepts. They're just pricey. It's expensive to buy some of those sharpening systems. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it and manufacturing, and then they're worth it. They take the they're dummy proof as long as you can set up properly. They're just time consuming, but I like people to use stuff like that, because the freehand sharpening is what I know, because that's just what I had to do. I've actually even thought about implementing some sort of guided angle system for certain things in my sharpening. I haven't determined that I necessarily need to. I haven't come across anything that's beaten me yet. I mean, not that I haven't been beaten by knives. I have.
That's definitely the next question. Somebody's asking, if you ever messed up a knife, do you leave some money aside for mistakes?
Well, I can recall one time at the very beginning. I mean, I must have been in my first 6 months of sharpening, and I had just learned how to do belt sharpening. And I don't remember, because I didn't get to see the knife again. And at this point in time, I didn't look at things as closely as I do now. So I can remember sharpening, I think it was a PM2. It was a Spyderco. And the guy basically said that I took off like way too much steel, and I left the tip proud. So I don't recall what that knife looked like before. This was 12 years ago that I did that. But yes, we replaced the knife in that case. And then one other time, belt sharpening. Oh gosh, what was it? Maybe it was a SOG. It was a SOG. I think it might have been, I don't know if it was an automatic or not, but it has the weird tip. Like, you'll know exactly if you've ever seen the SOG. It's like it comes to a point, and then it's got this weird little angle right at the tip of the knife. So it doesn't just come to an apex at the tip. It comes down like this, and then all of a sudden you have like this little weird angle. And then it's half serrated and half straight edge. And when I was sharpening one of those, and this was probably like 6 years ago, I bumped the first tooth of the serrations and I knocked it off. So we bought that guy a new knife. Those are the 2 times I can really think of. I can think of probably the first straight razor I sharpened. I applied too much pressure to the spine of the razor while I was trying to sharpen the whole thing instead of just pressure into the cutting edge. And then you wear down the spine on a hollow grind razor and you really just kind of mess things up. So those are the times. But yeah, I don't know if I would say I set money aside, but I do understand the risks and costs of doing business. And if I ever messed something up or felt like I couldn't give it back to a client in better condition than it was given to me, then yeah, we replace, I replace knives. That's what you do. At least that's where I come from. The guy that trained me and taught me about sharpening, and that's how he operated. And I mean,
unless you fix it or something, I guess.
But no, things happen. I've sharpened before, and you're sharpening real fast, and a kitchen knife tip is real thin, and you slip off the stone on your backstroke, and you're going to go forward, and your tip of your knife catches the front of your stone. That's happened. I've broken 1/8 of an inch off of a tip before, and that stuff like that you can usually repair without anyone even noticing it happened. If it was noticeable, though, yeah, you replace knives. You don't try to get away. And getting beat by a knife sucks. And sometimes what happens is you just end up spending. I've taken on projects in the past. Now I'm much more. I know what's what and what's going to work and what's not. And I know what to stay away from. But I've taken on projects in the past where I was like, I just spent 6 hours trying to get this knife sharp, and it was only a $10 sharpening, and you're just like, there goes the whole day. So
yeah, I can see that happening because I've tried sharpening a couple of times and spent like an hour on like nothing and just been like, what the fuck? And then like the moment where you think you're like got it, and then you totally fuck it up, and it's like, God damn it. Like, it's just so frustrating. So I always quit. I had an angle or a fixed angled system. It was a TS Prof something. And I used it like twice. I actually got good results on the 2 knives. Like, it was my first time using it, obviously. But like, it brings me no joy. Like, I have other stuff I want to do with the time I could spend on that. So like, personally, I don't get any satisfaction from sharpening. I think a lot of people I hear, they get like, it kind of like calms them down. It's kind of like a Zen type thing, sharpening. You get in the zone and you kind of, whatever it is. But I'm just constantly like, am I fucking it up? Am I fucking it up? And I'm sure it's like you get better at it or whatever. But real quick, let me answer this question. Javon, the growler, it takes, I think it's 5 millimeter, and then it's 3/64, I believe, the balls. So it's between 1/16 and 1 millimeter. So there are no skiffs for it, but I've been working with Skiff on it, and he's just waiting for the balls to come in. It's like taking forever for these balls to ship to him from wherever the fuck they come from. But once he has the balls, he does plan to make bearings that will fit the growler. Did I just freeze?
You did, but we can hear you.
I think the camera for some reason got disconnected. I wonder if my phone's ringing or something. But he does plan on doing it. I don't know what the fuck. Let me. And they will fit other stuff. Like I think the EMP EDC Nimble also takes a similar size. Had I known that it was a size that I couldn't swap with skiffs, I wouldn't have done it. But I didn't know it was a little too late. And then the prototypes we had, the action was like really good. They were like almost drop shut, and we were like, should we fuck with it? We're like, it's an $80 knife. Are people really going to want to swap skiffs? The answer to that is yes, they do. And I kind of would like to too. So we are working on it, but nothing right now. Hopefully that helps. Anyway.
So Corey. Yeah. I think for reference, How many knives have you sharpened professionally? What's the most amount of knives you've ever sharpened in one day?
Ben's got all
I
these
know
questions,
I'm over 100,000 knives. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm
100,000.
Yeah. I can tell you, I probably sharpened 50,000 in 1 year at the place I was at. Now, not all of those were Waterstone sharpening, so I've done a lot of machine belt sharpening in my career. So
that's quicker, I assume.
It is quicker. So now for my service, I don't offer up belt sharpening. There are times where belt sharpening makes the most sense and is going to give you the best results.
What's the
I would say a Hawksbill
to a belt sharpening versus a stone? You can take more material off quicker, or like?
Yeah, you can sharpen a lot faster, right? But the chance of screwing up knives is just as great, right? But it's speeding it up. So I think ultimately, at the end of the day, you can do belt sharpening and you can do Waterstone sharpening to a very, very high quality. I've found that I could probably produce a knife that looks like it was hand sharpened off of a belt system. The issue is it takes me just as long to do that on a belt sander as it does on Waterstones. The difference is that the belt is moving and you're stationary for the most part, as opposed to Waterstone sharpening where the stone is stationary and you're moving. But I think you can do both and do them well. Waterstone sharpening is, how you said you get no joy out of sharpening. Waterstone sharpening, that's the craft of it for me.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I can teach. I think belt sharpening is pretty easy. I think you could probably teach anybody who has an understanding of mechanics and has some dexterity in their hands and working with their hands and some hand-eye coordination how to do it. I think most people probably do belt sharpening because of volume. Like you want to do volume. And not everybody has the freehand sharpening skill. It doesn't, if you've done a lot of knives, you can do it pretty quickly. And if you're sharpening brand new knives, right? Knives, if you're a knife maker, maybe you want a Waterstone sharpen because your knife is pretty much sharp by the time you've finished sanding it. I know with my knives, they're already apex. They're just not like crisp, but they're sharp. They're thin. They're down to zero. There's an apex. After hand sanding, there's really not any burrs. You're just kind of going back in and putting a tiny micro bevel on it and getting it to where it's going to grab and sharp, be really nice and sharp. So belt sharpening also, for me, sometimes I think it makes sense for guys that are custom knife makers who are real comfortable at grinding. If you're comfortable working on a belt sander, but you're not comfortable working on stones, and you know how sharpening stones can have slurry and loose abrasive on the top of the stone, and all it takes is one wobble, and now you just destroyed a hand sanded finish that you spent hours pulling individual strokes to get that satin finish, everything running in one direction with no hook swirl marks. If you're not comfortable on stones, then it makes sense to use those belt sanders because you're right there. It takes 2 seconds. It's easy. I think that's why that would be an advantage to the belt sanders. Volume, though, in a professional setting, that's why people do machine sharpening. They want to be able to sharpen tons of knives.
I think there's a lot of professional sharpeners that use guided systems now, right?
Not high volume.
But like dudes like Corey, but they're not like hand sharpening skilled. You know what I mean?
But are they doing that full time for a living, or are they more of a hobby business?
But I think it's out like I think like an example would be like Jared Neve. I think he does hand sharpening, but I think he offers a guided
precision.
so that it's a little cheaper. So like, hey, if you want him to do a mirror edge on your knife with a hand stone, he's going to charge you whatever, $30. And if you want to just get your knife sharpened out the door, he can use a fixed system and do it in probably, 10 minutes, and it'll charge you like $15. You know what I mean? So I think people are doing that now. I don't know. You would know more than me, I guess, but.
So my issue with those guided systems is that by the time you have clamped that knife and set up your stone, I've already have a burr on one side of the knife. I'm already on to the other side.
But then, you have how many years of time into the stone?
Right. That's also the thing. I mean, I think it was holiday season, maybe last year or the year before. It was something stupid. I had like 60 knives to sharpen on water stones or something, and I think I did it in like 37 minutes. It was stupid. It was like, how fast can I get through all these? And they were kitchen knives. And I do start, if something's damaged, I like to start knives on. A lot of times I can start a knife on a belt sander, and then I'm cleaning up scratches, because kitchen knives just get brutalized. They just get trashed. So by the time something comes to see me, it's like, yeah, for the person that owns it, it's beyond anything that they can do for it.
They had to send it to you or buy a new knife.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even know what to do. Sometimes I see the knives and I'm like,
that's what I need to do, dude. I need to send you some kitchen knives. I have a bunch here that my wife uses the shit out of, and I've always said,
if you really look at those and inspect them, I'll bet you they have corrosion all over the edges, which is micro pitting. It's just pitting. It's like microchipping all over the edge. So that stuff, when you get it in, the best case scenario is you run it right 90 degrees on the belt sander to cut through that damage.
Right.
And you just want to get to fresh steel that doesn't have any corrosion. You want to start over fresh. Steel that's been honed a bunch, guys in the kitchens using sharpening steels, those edges, steel is compromised. It gets pushed past this yield point, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to try to keep pushing it back in a straight line so you can continue cutting with it. But if we just sharpen on top of that and we don't get rid of that steel that's been pushed beyond its yield point and stretched, it's getting stretched back and forth, then your edge isn't going to last long. So there's always a certain amount. I saw somebody's comment about how belt sanders and buffing can really ruin knives. It can, 100% not in the right hands. Sometimes it's necessary. In my situation, if I want to sharpen 60 knives by Waterstones and try to be at a 5 minute per knife, 6 minutes per knife, otherwise it's hard to really make a living as a knife sharpener. You have to be able to do it quickly and do a lot of them and do it well. So then the belt sanders are necessary just to give you that base again. And on top of that, there's not a knife out there that isn't initially sharpened at some point on a belt sander, right? You look at every production manufacturer, every one of those knives, for the most part, I bet none of them, or 99% of them, are just a guy that gets the knife. He's the last person to touch that knife on its way to being boxed up or whatever the process is. He's sitting in front of a belt sander, zip, zip, buff it off, finish it out, right? So I think the belt sanders are necessary in sharpening, especially if you want to be efficient. It's more the finishing off of a belt sander is where things get challenging. And I prefer the stones. But whatever works for people, for you. And I would definitely say you can remove a lot more steel a lot faster on a belt sander or on any mechanized. I mean, even there's techniques to using all these pieces of equipment. You can screw up a knife with a guided edge system if you don't really know what to check for, or how do I know how long I'm supposed to sharpen? If you just do 10, somebody says, hey, we do 20 swipes on the left side and 20 swipes on the right side, that's how much you sharpen. Well, if you have a burr after 5 swipes, you've now just done 4 times the amount of necessary sharpening. And if you don't have a burr after 20 swipes, you haven't done enough sharpening. So I would say if you Sharpening is about knowing how to use your tools that you have available to you, and knowing that there's a technique for each and every one of them. Water stones require a lot of practice, a lot of technique. It's probably harder. I can't probably get as flat of bevels as somebody can off one of those guided angle systems, just by the nature of how my body moves and how my pressure is on the stones. But I'm trying to read this comment here.
He says, do you feel that the edge you get freehand sharpening is better than a guided system? Is it truly worth committing, learning to freehand? I get it's faster, but is the juice worth the squeeze? For you now, you're 12 years in, so like, yeah, right? The answer is yes. But to somebody new, is it worth it? And you can answer this, but it's probably going to depend on the person, right? Like, if they can learn to do it or not, or if it's going to take them 10 years to get to a certain point. You know what I mean?
Do you want to spend the time to learn how to do it that way? So my sharpening has transformed a lot from being in a kitchen where I had like this crazy tyrant chef who, if he came by and used your knife, and executive chefs for some reason are like notorious for walking by and just picking up a line cook's knife and using it on whatever they want to because they're the boss and they know better, but it's like, whatever, they'll use your knife, and then if it's not sharp, that of course they'll give you, the riot act, read you the riot act. So I had this crazy chef that would do that, and if you didn't keep your knife sharp, I mean, he was really tough to work for. He was a great chef and great mentor, and I learned a lot from him about standards, and would never take that back. But I didn't have a choice but to learn how to sharpen. And also there was nobody like me in town. All there was the mobile sharpeners going around, and they're using bench grinders with stone, like carborundum wheels.
What's a mobile? Explain mobile sharpener, like a
drive around. They drive around in the van, and they have all the bench grinders or belt sanders in the van. They come in your kitchen, they round up everybody's stuff, they sharpen it out in the parking lot, and they bring it all back into you. And I remember having a knife, just got it sharpened, got it back, and it was worse. And I was like, well, now what? Because I still can't cut, right? And you don't learn anything in culinary school about knife sharpening. It's like a 1 hour. Like some chef instructor goes over sharpening for 1 hour, maybe, and I don't even know if you get to try the stones, and they show you kind of how to haphazardly sharpen. So it was out of desperation for me. There was no one for me to take my knives to, no one for me to send my knives to. YouTube wasn't a thing, so you were just going to figure it out or you weren't. So there it was necessity, and I could get my knife sharp, and some days it wouldn't get sharp at first. And then when I started doing it for a living, things had to change and everything had to get a lot tighter. And then I started looking at really, well, what's causing it not to get sharp? And you meet other sharpeners, and specifically the guy that I was working for who was training me. And, he starts explaining the science, the geometry behind it and why it's not doing what you expect it to do. And you start learning techniques. And now you kind of get onto a different level. And the whole reason we learned how to do belt sharpening was because there was too many knives coming through, and it wasn't feasible to make enough money by just waterstone sharpening. At least for then, it was like, well, how much better is this? So things change over time. You're sharpening, and I really, really liked sharpening. So I just fell down that hole. So now for me to go back and use an edge angle guided system probably doesn't make as much sense for me, and I maybe don't want to spend the money, or I just don't feel like I need to. But for somebody who's starting out, if you want to do it freehand, just get ready to sacrifice a knife or two to the cause. But when you're sharpening your own knives and you're sharpening the same style of knives over and over and over, it gets a lot easier and you get a lot more comfortable with it. I think it's harder to be a professional sharpener in the sense that it's not just the volume. It's that, like a plumber will come to your house to do work, and if the plumber before them did shitty work, they just are like, oh, I don't even want to touch this. Sharpening can be like that. You look at a sharpening from somebody who did a bad job, or a cook that tries really hard but just doesn't get it, but they're constantly, and you have to take that knife and try to bring it back to a resemblance of a new knife with proper geometry. And so every knife I see is a challenge. But when you're doing your own stuff, it shouldn't be that daunting. You're just following your own body rhythm and movement pattern of sharpening. You set this muscle memory. So fixed systems are nice for people who don't want to take that time, and it takes the guessing out. If you have the money to do it and you like the results, then I think that that's what you should do. I've always thought that it depends on the person. If you're interested in the art of sharpening and you want to sacrifice your knife to two and fall down the rabbit hole, because sharpening is a rabbit hole. I can't tell you how many sharpening stones, and I still, as a professional sharpener, I have to talk myself out of buying sharpening stones. It's just because I want them. And I don't necessarily need them, but I like how different stones feel and how they act. So if you're into that sort of thing, then freehand sharpening can be very rewarding. But if you're not getting the results you want and you're spending money on stones and you're spending a lot of time trying to learn, then probably maybe a guided system is a better option for you, in my opinion. I hope that answers your question. It was a very long-winded answer, but in short answer, they're both good if you get the results you want. I wouldn't say that you have to do freehand sharpening. If you really are into it and you want to do it, it's like, stock removal or forging. Why do I forge blades? I don't have to forge a blade. I spend all this time trying to move metal into the exact shape I want it to end up being. Sure, there's benefits to that, but in that same period of time, I'm spending out in the forge, possibly burning off carbon steel, the carbon content of my blade steel. Somebody else could be grinding out, 4 knives and finishing knives. So
right.
We do things because we enjoy it. It gives us joy. We like the process and the journey of it. Whether it's there's no best way. It's, do you get good results and do you like it?
So you were talking about buying stones and whatnot. I got your website up. You sell stones, right?
Yes, I do.
So what are these like? Can you explain them a little bit? Like what's different about them, or I don't know. I don't know anything, so
yeah,
just curious.
So there's a million stone manufacturers out there. Not a million, but there's a lot of stone manufacturers out there. There's a lot of different kind of stones. And in general, I will say that if your technique is good, then you can get good results off most any stones. But I wanted to select just one line of sharpening stones to carry and sell, mostly because I sharpen knives, and the question I get all the time is, what do you use and do you sell it? So this is what I use, and this is what I chose to sell. And I like them because this is an American-based company. They're out of Massachusetts. It's a newer company. I think they've been around for 5 or 6 years. But the gentleman that started Nanohone's the company. He was the head of the United States division of Shapton. Shapton is one of the largest stone manufacturers in the world. They have one of the best reputations for Japanese sharpening stones. He was the head of their U.S. division for like 10 years. And he was also really into woodworking and sharpening woodworking tools. And then he got into like the Japanese. He spent a lot of time in Japan. And he got really into like the Japanese urushi lacquer technique. It's a whole thing. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know it's a highly regarded lacquer process. And it's a thing in Japan. Check it out. It's called urushi lacquer, URUSHI. So through his knowledge of that process and like resins, and then his knowledge of sharpening woodworking tools, and his knowledge of working at Shapton, which is a manufacturer of abrasives, he developed these ceramic sharpening stones. So when we say ceramic, we're just talking about the bonding agent. So these are stones that are bonded together with the ceramic. They're fast cutting. He does everything measured in microns. So micron is basically your grit measurement. And across the world, grit measurements are going to be different based on where you are located. So in the United States, we have a standard grit rating system that is different than Europe, is different than Japan. So there's all these different rating systems. Well, micron is a universal measurement across the world. So if it's 70 micron, it's 70 micron. And if it says it's 70 micron, that's what's going to be in that stone. A lot of times with grit, you can say you're buying a 400 grit stone, but a lot of times there can be cross-contamination in those stones where you're getting a 400 grit that has lots of other grits. Anything that would fall through a fine mesh sieve, 400's the largest that can fall through, but it's not the smallest. And you can get some inconsistency. It's not the end of the world, but just gives you a more accurate reading, which gives you a higher polish in, I would say, a lower rating system. So the micron measurement for me, so these are the stones that I like a lot. And I like these. They're different than anything I'd ever used before. And I've only been using them for a couple of years, but I tried them out at Blade Show a couple of years ago. And I've always really liked diamond abrasive, obviously, because it cuts just about anything and it cuts everything well. But what most sharpeners are used to are diamond plates that are like a nickel. It's like an electroplate, right? Where you're bonding diamonds to just the surface of a piece of steel. So all you have is one layer of diamond abrasives across the top of the surface. And those can be really pressure sensitive stones. They get really, really deep scratches, but if you press too hard, you're just going to strip the diamonds off, and then your stones they don't work for very long. So you've probably seen them. I think Benchmade, everybody has those little diamond plates in some form or another, but these are a resin, and that honeycomb structure, it leaves more surface area, like more directions of the abrasive facing out, and you get a faster cut and a more refined polish. It's a really soft resin too, so they're really easy to deburr on. So even though they cut fast, they don't leave you like crazy huge burrs. They're really easy to deburr on. They don't dish almost at all, and you can flatten them. So they require a special flattening plate or lapping plate, diamond lapping plate to do it. But basically, you're kicking out the bonding material to expose new abrasive. So with that stone, you're not just wearing off that top surface of abrasive, it's a renewable abrasive. So there's two different series. Ceramic stones are what most people are used to as traditional sharpening stones. You can get a slurry on them. You're going to create some sort of swarf. It's a harder, in some senses, it's a harder material that's bonding everything together, but it's going to dish faster, right? So you're going to get that dish on your stone from sharpening, and it's always going to be more, it's going to be more severe in your lower grit stones. So when you're working a 200 grit or a 400 grit stone, that stone is going to wear away much faster. Those larger abrasives dull
what you mean
faster.
by dish is like as you sharpen areas of the stone, kind of.
Yeah, they become concave
because you're wearing it.
Yep, because
I never actually thought about that. So how long does a stone like last? I guess that's going to depend on the type of stone, material, and all that shit, isn't it? But
so let's say I use that 70 micron stone, which most people would put in the same category as a 200 grit. I probably sharpen, I don't know, I sharpen a lot of knives, but I will go through one of those stones maybe 8 months, and then a medium stone will be about twice as long as that, and a polishing stone will be way, way, way longer. I've been using one of these diamond resin stones solely in my sharpening service for the last 10 months, and there's like no end in sight. I mean, other than the fact that I get, sometimes I'll gouge it. They're real soft, so if your angle changes, you can edge leading pressure will gouge into the stone. So I've got some gouges, but as far as flatness and wearing through the stone, even with flattening, I'm not even close. That product that you have up there is super cool for anybody in the folding knife game, or just something if you're like an EDC guy and you're out in the field, you have a hunting knife. They make this small strops, and they're about 8 inches long.
Okay.
But that is like the most useful and efficient little tool. So it's completely flat.
You should put a picture out with like a coin or something.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea.
To me, it looks like a nightstick. You know what I mean?
You know, because that's the long one. I just use the same photos because
I
I'm
thought it
lazy
said
with my
small.
website, and I did it. So I'm actually going to be getting new photos of all the sharpening supplies after the beginning of the year.
Got it.
It says small, but it is the long. So the measurements are in there.
Just like that.
So this holds the stones, obviously.
Yeah, so the stones take
a block of aluminum.
It's about 3.8 pounds, I think, and it's got those rubber grommets on the bottom, so it really just doesn't slide anywhere. So that catches all your swarf, all your slurry, and all your water that runs off. Okay, and you don't need that. Cool. I use it because I work on a wooden table, and it's also a desk. So do
you need a $200 one?
If you sharpen like me
into it. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yes.
So they can't move.
Turn, dude. You can turn it and change your angle.
You can turn it.
It's a lazy
if you want to change your direction, sometimes you might want to turn your stone to be able to hit a different stroke.
What about this thing?
And that's the sink bridge. So a lot of people like to sharpen just right next at their sink, and you run water right over.
Got it.
Yep.
Damn, this is some professional shit right here.
It's very
It's the cream of the crop, bro.
Yeah. Are you selling to other professional sharpeners? Like,
not to professional sharpeners. He does sell to other professional sharpeners, obviously, Nanohone. But I'll tell you, when I went to the blade show, a lot of the knife makers were really interested in these products. So I would say a lot of that stuff is great for the knife makers. And he's got, I don't even carry his full catalog. So.
Right. All right, so let's talk about your knives. Real quick though, somebody was asking, what's your favorite steel? And what's your favorite steel to sharpen, I guess? That's two different questions.
Okay, so this is going to be the most unpopular opinion in this room. I am not a steel snob at all. I could care less.
D2. China D2.
I would say there's steels that are more difficult for me to sharpen, and I don't enjoy sharpening as much. But I think my favorite steels are really simple high carbon alloys. What I like to make knives with, I really like 1084. I think a lot of that has to do with just the forgiveness when you're forging. A eutectic steel is just going to have, you're not going to take the chance of overheating your steel, red shorting your steel by getting it too hot. You have more wiggle room, and you can have more wiggle room in your forging temperature too. So if you're forging at a lower temperature, if you're forging something in the 1% carbon range, and you let that knife get below a cherry red and you hit it, you're going to crack your blade. So I like things that are a little more forgiving for forging. I like W2 a lot. I like 1084 just as a simple steel. It's really, really simple alloy, so you get really fine grain structure and really easy sharpenability. So I like things that can take really fine edges. So simple alloys are going to be that. Even like a 52-100. So this new steel, this Apex Ultra that they designed, that Laren Thomas was a part of designing, I'm really excited about that stuff. I've got a couple bars of that, and
Is it a carbon steel?
It is a carbon, and
what was it developed for?
Forging.
It's a forging steel that is designed. So if you think about a lot of knife steels now, the modern stuff that they're making and coming up with, they're coming up with stainless steels that are high vanadium alloys, or they're extremely corrosion resistant or extremely wear resistant and extremely tough.
Are you saying those aren't like water jet cut or whatever versus hammering the shit out of it?
Yeah, all that stuff
comes in.
People aren't hammering Magna Cut, is what you're saying?
You could, but it's not ideal.
So have you ever, here's a random question, since everybody's asking questions, I'll ask mine. Have you ever watched Forged in Fire and then taken apart a bicycle and shoved pieces of it into something and melted it together to make a billet of, what do they call it? What do they?
The canister.
What is it?
They're making canister Damascus.
That's what it is. Have you ever done that?
Yeah. I've never made canister Damascus. I have made a few billets of Damascus. I am far more concerned with the finer details of knife construction and fit and finish and proper geometry than I am about making a cool looking piece of steel. So that's probably also a very unpopular opinion.
No, well, the reason I say hang on a second is because that looks fucking badass right there. So I'm just wondering how.
Well, I appreciate that, and I love that style of knife. But a lot of people will say that looks like an apprentice made it, or that looks like a blacksmith made it. Well, that's kind of the whole point. Is that is me forging the knife as close to shape as I possibly could, or trying to leave as much of that forge scale and distress.
So that's
distress
from
surface.
The actual forging process. You didn't add
that's
something.
I just didn't have to grind that part of the blade because I forged in my bevels and.
Yeah, but it looks sick, dude. This thing's sexy as fuck.
Yeah, that's called forge scale. And that's when he pounded that in the forge, he got that thickness right, so he didn't have to grind it down. Some knife makers add forge scale like after the fact on a sheet of metal they bought and then ground. I mean, it's not the same. What he does here,
nickel, silver, and my Carter 1084 high carbon steel. Yeah, dude, this thing looks sick. Hey, it's available right now. If anybody wants to pick it up, 500 bones.
What's cool about Corey Chef's knives is number one, they're forged to shape with minimal grinding. But
this is the Apex Ultra thing you were talking about.
Yep, yeah, that was at the Blade Show.
That knife was pretty awesome. I made a billet of 5-layer, so that's wrought iron and nickel and Apex Ultra.
So confused. You just said you don't like doing this fancy shit. Look at this.
There's always exceptions to every rule.
Okay.
Is that Sanmai, or what do you call it? 5-layer Damascus? Is that
technically is Gomai, because Go is the word for 5.
Dude, so it looks
like a low layer.
Hold on, let me try to zoom in on this. Oh yeah, look at that. What color is it? Is that like yellowy white?
It's just really silver. It's nickel. So
so it's the light. Look at that. It almost looks like paint dripping off the blade, dude.
So I left a lot of the oxides down on the core steel, so you can see how dark it is.
Yeah.
You just get a ton of contrast. And all that waviness that's actually wrought iron. So on top, it's not Damascus on top. It's just that the wrought iron gets a lot of carbon migration and movement. And then when you etch it, it just acts crazy.
That's sick, dude. That's a good looking one. And then you have this one up. This one's out of stock. Ironwood Perry. It's a little guy.
Yeah, I like to make a lot of those little, like, those are kind of like what I do when I get out in the forge and I need like a warm up. Like I'll forge out a couple of those real quick before I start moving in, just to get my body going before I get into the bigger stuff.
That's all most people need, I would think. So that's the only one. Oh, no. Okay, so here's a couple of little guys. Oh, look at this one, dude.
Just sold.
Oh, shit.
I think the only knives I have left are that one curly poplar handled chef's knife, and I have a Bowie knife.
Oh, they say out of stock. Sorry. I'm looking for the sold symbol. My bad. Yeah. But that's good. It's good. Oh, you got one here, right? This guy?
Yeah.
He doesn't do fancy shit, but every one of them has fancy shit on
them. What he's trying, like some of the guys that forge knives and make knives, dude, they spend a lot of time making Damascus billets. Like there's guys that dedicate themselves to the art of making those Damascus billets, and they get really wrapped around the axle with that.
I know what you mean. Yeah. But do you make the sheaths?
I don't make the sheaths. Leather work is a whole different profession, in my opinion, and I'm just not ready. There's just too much knife making stuff that I'm still interested in before I get into starting to do my own cheese. And I have this local guy here who's an older knife maker, and he's good. He's made 1 million cheese, and he's easy for me to deal with. So that's who does it. But I'll kind of guide him in what I want for the sheath.
Right.
And he's good. So
that's cool. So he's your Northwoods leatherweight.
Yeah, he's his leather guy.
Yep.
So Mark asks, what's the best pedestrian chef knife for dude who gets the munchies and thinks he's Emeril Lagasse?
Depends what you want to spend on a chef's knife.
Sounds like not much.
I like Japanese knives. I think you can get, I mean, there's so much stuff out there. If you just want a simple knife, you like a Tojiro DP series VG10 knife is $85 for a chef knife that's 61 Rockwell, and you can beat the heck out of it. That's probably some of the better money you can spend. Misono, if you want like fit and finish,
50 to 80, he says.
Yeah. I think Tojiro is probably going to be your best value. They're a huge large scale production manufacturer in Japan, and they make a series called DP, and it's just a Sanmai VG10. So they're stainless. You just need to make sure VG10 can be chippy and can be pretty corrosive. So you just need to make sure you're not leaving it in the sink when your munchies are getting taken care of, and you just got to wash it and dry it when you're finished. Otherwise, you'll end up with some damage, and you won't be too thrilled about that. Masahiro is another big name Japanese company that makes like a really durable. You're probably like $125 for an 8-inch chef's knife, maybe $115 for a Santoku. I think your sweet spot for the Japanese knives for like a good quality everyday user, you're gonna be between 100 or 80 and 120, maybe 125. So
someone asked if you have a YouTube channel.
I do, but add that to the list of things that I need to do. I sit and watch Ben in his office, like doing all these posts, and I try to keep up, and I'm just like, I just can't keep up with all this stuff. And I'm not the most social media, YouTube savvy person. So making the computer an everyday tool in my profession is new to me and has been a challenge I've really enjoyed, and something I'm so thankful to have Ben next door for me. So when I'm beating on the computer, like the guys in Zoolander, where they're banging on a computer like a couple of monkeys, that's what I look like in my office sometimes, and I'm lucky to have Ben next door. But if one day, coming soon, I do have a YouTube channel. I haven't put any content on it yet. I'm hoping to in the next year or so.
Will it be like sharpening tutorials and stuff like that, or what's your plan?
Yeah, so I think I would like to do some sharpening tutorials, and I get hung up on this all the time. Like, if you've seen one guy sharpen a knife, you've seen them all sharpen a knife. And Ben's always like, it doesn't matter. Like your people don't know about all these other, like I know who's sharpening where and who's doing what, and I've seen all them sharpening videos.
Yeah, but it also comes down to the person teaching it. And I mean, at least from the last 2 hours of you talking about it, it seems like you can explain things pretty well, and people are, enjoying listening to it. And I think that's a big step.
I would like to do some educational stuff. I like this forum, or I guess this type of interaction a lot more. I like the live, open discussion conversations. Right. I like classroom scenarios. I teach demonstrations at the local community college. Every block that comes in, I know the chef of the program, and he'll have me come in for every new group of students, and I'll just kind of give them a few hours. And I enjoy educating. I just enjoy doing it more I guess I like doing it live and right then. I just have never really thought about having the setup, but I would definitely include it would be educational sharpening stuff. And
I mean, you could do it. You could like record yourself doing a class or something. I don't fucking. You could literally do live like classes. Jared does that, I think. He has like a Sunday live stream where people just ask questions while he sharpens and shows them how to do it. Something like that would probably work.
Yeah. I'll do. Sometimes I'll get. Well, I shouldn't say. It's not like I do it frequently, but I like to get on, Instagram live or start a live stream on Instagram from time to time when I'm sharpening. When I have a lot of knives in, sometimes I'm like, let's just kill some time, and I'll start a live stream. And if you follow me, then pull me up. Then you can get on there. And if there was constant demand, I would like to start a live stream every week and just while I'm sharpening kind of explain what I'm doing. And I've shown before, like, all right, here's what I'm working on today. It can be mundane for me because I do it all the time, but I guess for a lot of people,
link in the chat for you guys if you want to follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, give me a follow. I do occasionally get on there live, and if you hound me and send me messages, say, hey, I want to see a live, I want to talk sharpening, then I set up my camera right over my station, and you can watch me sharpen. So
that's clean, dude. Look at that thing.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So I do a lot of hidden tang chef's knives, and I like bolsters on my knives.
That's sexy, dude.
So I fit those bolsters up just like you would fit a guard. So slotted, on a mill machine, get a really nice tight pressed fit. And then like those are etched.
I see what's happening. I see what's happening to Kevin right now. It's happening in front of all of us. He's like, dude, he's like, that's sick.
That's funny.
How long, Kev, until your first handmade kitchen knife?
I have two. I can't. My problem is I bought them so that I would use them, and then I never bring myself to actually cook. Like, I like the knives, but like I don't actually cook, so it sucks. I bought at Blade West. I bought a Dogwood Customs kitchen knife and like S30V, S35, and it had some crazy like hemp fucking weed handle or some shit.
Wait, did you say Dogwood Custom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan's awesome. I used to sell his knives at the Phoenix Knife House when I was working there. We had his stuff, and I've seen his hemp handle, his hemp resin.
That's what it was. I bought a custom at Blade West.
Very cool.
Then I have one from I have a paring knife I had made for my wife from Ryan Pearson, but I've never used them. I've cut an apple, so it's like, as much as I want more, it's kind of, I don't know. Kyle's he's a sharpener as well. He's the one who's sharpening my chickadees, my 3
right
chickadees.
On. Yeah, reach out. I mean, you can email me, you can message me on Instagram. Honestly, Instagram's probably the easiest because I have to go on there and post daily, and I'm on there, so always easy. Yeah,
you got to post daily, man. That's like the trick to the whole thing, is just fucking slam people with content. Apparently, luckily, that's my nature, so it works out.
But Corey, he works with his hands. Like I'm in front of the dang computer all day.
Right.
But Corey's working with his hands all day. It's not easy. It's a whole different mindset, dude, to go from
totally get it
physically doing something and being in that kind of zone versus these. So,
well, it's also easier. You're sitting at your desk working, or you can be like, let me grab this and make a quick whatever. There's a whole process to that for him.
I'm really looking forward to one day being set up in a shop where there's designated content areas, right? And I don't even have to think. Like, set up a camera in the forge that just focuses right at the meat of the anvil and just would capture like all that good forging action, right? Not me going back and forth to the flame, just just the good hammering stuff. And then having somewhere to photograph things afterwards. My biggest problem all the time is I look at, I'm like, I'm going to post this content. I go to like get a picture. And, these cameras now, they're so awesome on your phone that they pick up just the tiniest little thing. And I'm like, I can't put that up there. It's like,
Ben and I were talking about that the other day. The
lighting is bad,
camera makes something that looks like nothing, makes it look like shit. And you're like, yeah, it sucks. It does.
Yeah. So that's something that's a challenge. Convex edges on my blades. So yes, I do. I do kind of compound bevels on lots of stuff that I do. So with kitchen knives, I like to do more of a flat grind or maybe like a slight convex, but as flat of a grind as possible. Sometimes on those blades that don't have forged scale left on them, then I'm doing pretty much a full flat grind. I do like to do convex chef's knives where the top section is pretty much flat and then we're kind of just real lightly like rolling in and then coming down to a real fine apex. But definitely on my Bowie knives and on a lot of the EDCs and hunters I'll finish grinding down to whatever thickness I want. And then I basically kind of apple seed the edge down to 0. And then when I go in and I do my finishing or hand sanding, I'm blending all that together. So it's built into the initial finish of the knife. So that way, when I finish hand sanding, the knife is basically sharp because I've already put in that convex bevel. So on my kind of rougher use knives, definitely on Bowies, I like to do that. So I do a convex edge there. And for sharpening service, if somebody wants a convex edge, I can do a convex edge. Your convex edges are going to be best off of a belt sander. So a slack belt, somewhere where you have some compression. I'm sure if I had some stones that were really dished out, I could get you a round convex sharpened bevel, but I don't generally focus on that. I'm not sure that I know what the
Sharuku Mono.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen those knives before.
Sharuku Mono.
But I will tell you this right now: if you are doing your own sharpening and you're being diligent about it, then you should like both, because I've always felt like the best way to be happy with your knives is to know how to keep them sharp and maintain them. Obviously, we need proper edge geometry from the start, but if you have good edge geometry on your knife and you can take care of it, then you should be happy with it.
Please do a video on that KPL dry lube. So I do have it. They sent me 2 of those boxes. I'm going to give one away, and then I have the other one. I took the dry lube out, and I tried it on, was it this knife? I think I tried it on the Venom, and it wasn't, I didn't like it. Soon as I kind of cleaned it off and put regular KPL on, it felt way better. So I don't think I'd recommend the dry lube on something like a slip joint, but possibly on a folder. I think it's meant for like scenarios where you don't want the kind of, liquid type lube, or you don't want it to, I don't know. But yeah, I'll have to test it a little bit. But part of me hates testing stuff like that because I know I can get good action with X. Why am I going to go testing something that might not be good? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit of like doing it for no reason for me sometimes. But I do need to try it. But he also said, side note, convex edges are underappreciated. Cool. All right.
Yeah, I think they can be super sharp and they can be really tough. They're just hard for the average sharpener to maintain without getting some wonky scratches behind your bevel at a certain point. The more you sharpen them, they're a little more.
That would make sense. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna start doing this giveaway because I gotta wrap it up because I gotta sleep because I'm not 2 hours behind. All right, so I have I have a thing of KPL Ultralight, which I actually used on the Venom. I used that to get into like the washers, and then I used original or heavy on the actual tang corners and everything. And I got a bunch of swag, and then I have a Kaiser Serape series knife they sent me to review, and it's in this dope ass pouch. These pouches are sick. And
I always appreciate seeing people step their packaging game up.
Yep. And this is the Towser K version. I'm not a Mexican blanket guy, but I can see why somebody would dig it. And then obviously, you know, the pouch is cool.
Is that Mexican blanket from G-Carta, or is that just like something they made to look like it?
It's G10. So let me clean that. Oh no, it's my. I don't know. Oh, that's what happened. It switched to my fucking. Got it. It switched to my MacBook cam when it went out. Anyway, never mind. But anyway, this is the Towser K Serape series, and yeah, the action is pretty good on this guy, but it's G10, Ben.
Yeah, so
It's not the micarta. It's just their kind of version of it, but it feels good in the hand. Looks good. Just, you know, it's just if you're into the color scheme or not. You know what I mean?
I think it's cool.
They did a good job with it. They did a whole series of them. They did the Towser K, they did the original and the Cormorant, and then they did a little double detent one. But yeah, this one's dialed in. So I'm gonna give that away. And it comes with like a bead and a like flight tag thing or something that's in the same material. Pretty cool setup. So put all this in here. I wonder if I could just.
He's back.
Bust this open and put the KPL in there.
He had to go check out what was going on, but he's like, "Why did I leave?" I wanted to show you.
I'm just gonna put this in here, make it easier.
You know how on your picture for the live you had your AirPods?
Yeah.
I've been using this now for like a month, maybe 2 months. You ever try one of these? This is from Nomad.
What? Just a case?
Yeah, it's a case.
Yeah, I have one from Andar. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I broke a pair of what do you call these? AirPods.
Yeah.
When it didn't have a case, I dropped it on the ground and it blew out my case.
Really? I've seen testing of them like chucking them out of airplanes and they survive.
I busted one, dude. I dropped it a bunch of times, but one time was too much. So anyway, I got this and I've dropped this a couple times. I don't know why I don't drop stuff much, but AirPods seem to be the bane of my existence. But I was just going to give a shout out to this product from Nomad. Okay. It's like the light shows through. And,
Andar makes a good one just like that I have. I think it's called the capsule. I love that when you open the lid, it kind of like pops the AirPods out and presents them to you. It's fucking awesome. But yeah.
Hey, I have a question for. This is sorry to interrupt you, Ben. I thought you were done with that. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the only negative is it adds a little bit of bulk.
Yep.
All right, we're off of earbuds now. But I'm curious as to what people in the group think about the glow in the dark G-Carta. So I just picked up some of that stuff. Have you seen it yet?
Show us a picture.
Glow in the dark G-Carta?
Yeah.
Is it from JL?
Yeah, from Hanson. Yep. So it's like the Twitter Passion or Twitter Pattern and this other one, but I just picked up a couple of pieces of the stuff and I'm
all right, let me see if I can find it. Winter blanket, sailbox, blah, blah. Does it have a weird name or anything?
Yeah, it's like Twitter Patreon or something.
Oh, sorry,
like
that's
that.
what you were. Okay, good. And it's green?
There's green, there's a blue one, and there's like a greenish. There should be a few, like 2 or 3 different ones.
There's a mahi one.
Put it up on the
there's
screen.
So much stuff there.
I'm not seeing.
Yeah, can you put that? Can you put that screen up on? So is that the top? Is that where it starts?
Yeah.
Of the gallery? All right. Keep going down.
Is it G Carta specifically?
Go to G Carta, see if it's in there. I think that's it. And then top row, that right. That might be one. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Yeah, you might have to scroll down a little bit, but there's some trippy stuff. You see those like little beads, those blue ones in that they're like that, but they're glow in the dark.
Interesting.
It's pretty cool stuff, but I haven't seen it on a knife yet, and I'm just debating what I'm going to put it on.
Go back
and
to
if anybody's even going to like it.
Go back to all.
That's where it is.
I'm going to go grab it. I have it right outside.
Yeah, go grab it.
I'm going to go grab it, and I'll try to blast it with some light so I can.
I'll start doing the giveaway thing. Giveaway. Cool.
This friggin' dog is so tired, bro. Look at him.
Yeah, dude.
Look at this guy. He's like, put me to bed, dude.
All right, what should our hashtag be?
Hashtag sharp.
Hashtag sharp. All right. On the nose, bro.
On the nose. We got to keep it simple for things like giveaways. Oh,
yeah,
except
we wouldn't want to be like Casey and actually do numbers.
I'll tell you what, when you do that, it wants to pop up people's names that start with sharp. So just hit a space after it, right?
I don't know. I already did it. I can change it, though.
I think it'll work. Everybody seems to get the hang of it. Found a way to make something hard that didn't need to be.
Hey, you dick.
Sorry. Not sorry. And if you guys want a knife that's sharp, Venom Jack, baby. And what I didn't mention is I got a deal with Corey where you can get a reduced sharpening rate if you send in a Jack Wolf. So he gives me the reduced rate. I pass the reduced rate on to you guys. And I think I did that. It's been so long since I looked. So either you're going to pay the same. I can't remember. I'll look at my website.
He's only charging $15. Like what?
I can't remember. Let me look.
How much more reduced could it be?
I don't know. I might just put my foot in my mouth. Let's see. I think $20, but I think that includes the return sharpening. Sharpening one knife, return shipping, first class. So it's basically between 10 and 15.
Okay. Cool.
So for $20, you send the knife to me, you pay me $20, Corey sharpens your knife. You heard the turnaround. It's like a day. And then you'll get it back. And I'll tell you guys, while he's gone, I can pump him up a little bit. He's been sharpening my own personal collection we've been friends for 20 years, in case anybody's curious there. Like I've known him since the year 2000. So over 20 years. He is the only person who's ever sharpened any of my knives. And I trust him with everything. If there's a one-off by a dead maker and it's priceless and it needed to be sharp, I'd have zero hesitation to let him do it. And you know who else I'd let touch that knife? Nobody.
All right. Got confidence.
100%, dude. Over 100,000 knives.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of knives.
He won't. It's just crazy, man. He used to have at the studio. Corey, I'm thinking about when you had during the holiday seasons when I would come in there and there was just this rack, dude, and it was filled with these brown paper bags with people's knives. I'm talking a wall full of these things. He'd be like, I got to get through all these before I leave today. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he can get it done quickly and efficiently, expertly. So when he takes
that many knives to sharpen,
dude, it's like all the home chefs and all the restaurants, like every single household has knives in it. And when you're the only one servicing a large metropolitan area, you'd be surprised. But what I like that he's doing now in the place we share is he's able to do the high quality hand sharpening, and it's not like all about volume. He's able to slow down a little bit and use the stones and produce these ridiculous edges on everybody's stuff. And it's quick. It's pretty sweet.
I send mine to Lefty, yeah, dude. You do not want to send those to Lefty. All right, let me pull the winner, and then he can show us this stuff, and we can wrap this up because I need to go to sleep. There you go. For the Towser K Serape series from Kaiser, the winner is Kyle Coonley. Look at that.
Dang, the sharpening guy.
Yeah, it works out. I don't have any sharpening goodies in here, but there we go. That kind of sucks. I just sent him those chickadees.
Oh.
It's like $5. I don't care. Here we go, brother. I'll get that out to you. I have your address, so that'll make it easy.
Good job, Kyle.
Awesome.
So these aren't all buffed out, so they're not going to look like they do on the website. But I'm going to see if I can turn this light off and kind of see. So you can get an idea of like what it's going to be. Like it's green and purple and blue.
Yeah.
And then let's see if I can turn this light off and you guys can see it glow in the dark.
The key to glow in the dark is it has to look cool without.
We're going to get too much light from that, so it's not going to.
Is it a laptop or what is it?
Yeah, so there's just too much light.
Can you just turn the brightness off on the screen or no? That's what I do when I'm trying to do that. There you go.
Yeah, I don't have enough juice in the glow in the dark yet.
Okay.
But
so you have to hit it with something for it to glow.
Probably, dude.
It just needs.
I always find that like dumb about
all this. Is glow in the dark, but then you still get all that crazy color.
Yeah, that's the key. It has to look good anyway. And then if it glows in the dark, cool, you know. Oh, I missed it.
So then like you have that.
My bad. Jeremiah, hang on, let me grab that. Just because you the man. Thanks, brother.
I'm just wondering if it's total overkill. And like, does it outperform stuff like this? I mean, how can you argue with these awesome dyed burl woods? Like, these things are so cool now.
Yeah.
And the double dyed ones that people are doing, I mean, that's not even buffed. That's just like a hunk of rough finished wood, but the color is just crazy. You almost get like that, what is that? Like Starry Night kind of effect, you know, that painting. Yeah. Some of these burls with all that dye are awesome, but I'm just curious how many people really like that glow in the dark stuff, and or if people are more into like the classic plain micarta and G10.
Right.
You know.
Hey Ben, is it just like the angle, or is there like a lamp just hanging next to your head?
It's floating. No, it's chained to the ceiling.
Okay.
I can't reach it from here. If that helps.
You don't have problems with like kids fucking grabbing it and shit?
Now that you've mentioned it, it will probably happen. But so far, it's not been a problem.
Okay, gotcha.
My kids would rather, they like to run all over the furniture. Like, do your kids do that? Like, my son is probably getting close to 140 pounds, if I had to guess at this point. It's like, dude, you can't stand on the couch anymore. Like, you're going to go through it.
Right.
But
that's funny. All right. Well, I got to wrap it up. But is there anything you guys want to cover before we leave? Obviously, Ben, if you want to pitch the Venom Jack.
I'll pitch us both. Me and Corey have been friends for over 20 years. We're fortunate to be working side by side on our own entrepreneurial pursuit. If you guys are interested in a Jack Wolf knife, the Venom drops tomorrow, Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, authorized dealer list on my website. If you have any questions about my knives, hit me up. If you need your knives sharpened, not only your pocket knives, but your kitchen knives, Corey's your guy. I stand behind the fact I think he's the best sharpener in the country. He's got really fair pricing, quick turnaround time. And if you have a Jack Wolf, as you saw on my website, I have a great rate for you too. We're two knife guys having fun. We're here to help you out. So don't hesitate to be our friends and ask us any questions you got.
Yeah, you guys can hit me up on Instagram if you have questions, Corey Dunlap _. You can email me through the website. It's pretty easy. There's a contact button. If you need sharpening stones, call me if you want to try the NanoHone stuff. If you're really into sharpening and you're interested in other products that are out there that I don't sell, I've used a lot of stuff, and I'm happy to describe how my stuff differs or what I like about other people's stones. I'm an open book on that stuff. I'm not just trying to pitch the NanoHone products and only that. There's a lot of great sharpening stones out there that I use that I don't sell. And if you ever want a fixed blade, kitchen knife, Bowie knife, fixed EDC, something made out of carbon steel and forged, hit me up. I'm taking orders. I'm probably like 6 to 8 months out on a custom right now. Sometimes it can be faster. If it's a really fun project and I need a break from what I'm doing, the monotony of kitchen knives, then sometimes I'll throw in a crazy knife or two just because I want to do it personally. So yeah, I'm open to that stuff too. So reach out if you have any questions, and I'm happy to be an open book for any sharpening or knife resources you need. So give me a shout.
And you can see us at Blade, Texas.
Yes, we'll both be at Blade, Texas exhibiting. If you're there,
I'll be there.
Come check it out.
All right, cool. Thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ben, for putting that together. It's good to meet you, Corey.
You too. Thanks for having me on. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Maybe I'll get mine up and then have you on.
All right. Hey, man, I'm down for that. All right. Thank you guys for coming out and watching. We appreciate it. And the dog's saying peace. So,
Peace.
Later.
Take care, guys. Thank you.